Hi, my name's Dave Price, and it's great to have Tony Houlihan back on the show. Tony, how you doing, sir?
How you doing?
Good stuff. Well, what I wanted to do, we're in December 2024, is have a bit of a review over what's been happening over the last year for you. But I was just thinking, before we do that, it'd be really useful for people who haven't actually seen you talk before at all. Can you just give us a quick sort of background about what you guys do?
Of course. So I'm primarily a property developer. I work across the Northwest, doing various property development projects, and I also do quite a bit of consultancy for other property-related businesses in and around the UK.
Great stuff. Cool. And then, so what during 2024 has been keeping you busy? What's the year been like?
Lots of different things. Last couple of years have been really, really good in terms of different opportunities coming our way. But 2024 was really the year where a lot of them came to reality. Some that have been working on for quite a long time. There's been a massive mixture of stuff. Um,
So I can't
Obviously,
just
we've had
when you say
go
some of
on.
those have taken quite a long time, because people who aren't used to property, does that mean a month or two? How?
Once you get used to property development, a long time becomes years rather than months.
Yeah.
So, as an example, we've just got a huge project over the line for some clients. They'd actually already been in planning when we first got introduced to them for nearly 4 years, and it's just taken us just over 12 months to get them through the next set of hurdles in order to get development finance in place, to get a team in place to be able to start building.
God, it really does take years on the development side, also it can do.
Especially when planning's involved and planning delays. And you know, these clients are great clients, but they don't have a huge track record in property. So we've been guiding them through a lot of things and trying to get the right finance partners on board from it, etc.
Right, got ya. Yeah, it's just interesting how much slower development stuff can actually work, as you say, when you put into the mix planning permissions, etc.
Yeah, there's quite a few schemes where we've been in planning for over 12 months, unfortunately. The new government are promising lots of reforms and coming out with lots of sound bites, but we'll wait and see. They have overturned quite a few interesting decisions in the last couple of weeks, so they are definitely trying to make some statements.
Oh, so you've actually seen what the government has been saying actually come into effect to a certain degree.
A little bit, yeah. So there's a landmark. I think it's a Marks and Spencer supermarket in London that was in a pretty Art Deco building. And M&S have been trying to get it demolished and build a new office block there for a few years. And I think they've just approved that this week. And they've also overturned a rejection up near me in Knutsford for a very big housing scheme that was part Greenbelt, part not,
Hmm.
that had previously been rejected, and they've overturned it and they've given it permission. So that's going to go ahead. So they're making some quite big decisions. I'm not getting drawn into whether they're the right or wrong ones, but they're definitely making decisive action. So let's wait and see. Um, Obviously, they need to do it over a consistent amount of time
Yeah.
for it to make it a long lasting impact.
I must admit, I wasn't expecting you to say that you're actually seeing the changes already beginning to filter through, which has got to be good news. As you say, will it continue? How far will it go is a different question, but
Previous episode, I was saying that I was fairly skeptical of all the statements that were being bandied around, but at least they are doing some things. Let's see where it takes us over the next few months.
yeah, no, really interesting to hear that from the ground floor. So sorry, I was getting you to summarize your 2024 year.
Sorry, so sort of the big wins, if we want to call them that. Getting this big new build development over the line for our clients has been massive. That's going to be a £3 million GDV scheme. And it's really exciting for us to be able to deliver something of that quality for that area. It's going to be a really exciting scheme to work on next year.
Right, 3 million. So how many units are you talking about in something like that?
It's six houses, so it's six high-end houses. It's in a nice rural area, just outside Morecambe. It's in a place called Overton, and it's going to make a cracking scheme. That's one of the big wins this year, but there's also been quite a few others. Done quite a lot of supported housing, which we've touched on before
Hmm.
with my business partner Tara. We've delivered, I think it's 15 bed spaces this year in new housing. So we've took derelict houses, basically, done them up, converted them into houses of multiple occupation, and we've given people that were homeless somewhere to live. So, I think that's a really big, business win and a sort of environment win in terms of helping people out. So, really pleased with that. I'm looking forward to doing lots more of that next year.
Right, so that's the big feel good one. Actually, be able to provide accommodation to people who really need it.
I mean, Dave, I think we've said this before. Everyone needs a house. Everyone needs a roof over their head. It's one of the basic needs. But it feels a bit different when you're taking someone that, might have been sleeping rough or might have been in temporary accommodation to give them a proper house that's a really nice house that you'd be proud to live in yourself. That does feel really good.
I was going to say, because a lot of what you do I associate with normally the social living aspect. But you say that £3 million development, half dozen, £500,000 houses or so, presumably nothing to do with the social side of things.
So that private residential, that's just I've done all sorts of different developments. I was explaining to someone this morning, done everything from small terraced houses to big 750k houses for private sale.
Hmm.
They all have a slightly different market. Done some apartment schemes too. I'm fairly agnostic in terms of what the opportunities are. If they work commercially and it's something that I'm interested in delivering, I'll do it.
Right. Yep. No, makes sense. Because the fundamentals, whoever's going to actually occupy the property, are pretty much the same anyway, aren't they?
You need to design it with your end user in mind, with your various exits. Everyone talks about having multiple exit positions on some of your projects. Obviously, a 750k house doesn't lend itself to a lot of other uses other than a high end owner occupier. But at the lower end of the market, it could be social, it could be normal buy to let, it could be just for a first time buyer.
Right. And is each one, do you look at it each on its individual merits rather than, no, I really want to go down the social housing route or I want to go down the high ends routes? Or is it just what comes along? Or,
So I prefer if I was going to pick just one project, one type of project to do, I do prefer new build in development terms. However, we focused heavily on supported housing this year. Partnership with Tara has worked really well. And we can see that making a big impact. And it's also shorter turnarounds in terms of project times. So, you're not talking 15 months in planning, you're not talking 12 to 15 months to build and then six to exit. So some of these projects could be 3 years long, 4 years long.
hmm,
The supported housing stuff, we can be, if the conveyancing process works half reasonably well, you can buy a house in 3 months, you can do it up in 3 to 4, and you can get on your exit straight away if you're holding it, or maybe if you're trying to sell some of them, then you're 3 to 4 months again if you're lucky. So you can be in and out in less than a year, which is quite nice as well.
yeah, I imagine that shorter span works really well compared to, as you say, 3 or 4 year deals.
Some people look at the big number in the bottom right hand corner of the spreadsheet and think that they're going to be rich overnight with property development, but when you work out the amount of time and effort and the amount of days that you put into some of these developments and the amount of stress that they cause. If you actually equated that to a daily or an hourly rate, I think a lot of people would be surprised and probably change their strategy.
I could believe that actually, yes. And also, presumably, you get involved in deals that don't come to anything at all.
There's quite a lot of those, unfortunately, but I think earlier on in my development career, we chased deals, we tried to make things work, we tried to squeeze cost out where, it was difficult to do it. We worked to very aggressive time frames, and there's always something that either goes wrong in terms of program or in terms of cost that you're not expecting. So, when you go in and you're trying to be really tight from day one, it's very, very risky business, especially when you're dealing with some of the high value stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. A mistake there tend to be very expensive mistakes as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I was talking to someone this morning. There's a lot of very experienced developers that get in trouble occasionally. So, you need to be wary of it and you need to be aware of the risks and you need to have the right team around you to sort of navigate that.
Absolutely. It just seems to be property. My experience as well is things will always go wrong.
Yeah.
I think
All
anything
part
else,
part of the fun, Dave.
it is indeed. It makes it more interesting that way, man. So
Absolutely.
on that point, have there been any big challenges during 2024 that you've had to face?
So we've had some fairly significant challenges as always. I feel like one of the biggest ones for our business personally has been cash flow. So transaction times are sort of expanding still. Buying a couple of the properties we bought have took over 6 months just for the initial conveyancing process. So, if you've got a figure in mind that you're going to make out of a deal or a certain amount of cash flow that you're going to get from that deal within a certain period of time, when those time periods keep getting stretched and stretched and stretched, and no one reacts quick enough, and no one delivers to the time frames that they said they're going to do. Obviously, that puts quite a lot of pressure on cash flow.
Mm.
We've had to deal with that in a number of ways. We've trimmed our cost base. We've been really careful with what regular outgoings we've got. We've been looking at short-term deals and consultancy stuff to sort of make sure that there's enough cash coming in to make sure that the bigger stuff can sort of tick along in the background. And that's been a lot of our focus this year to work on the shorter term stuff, make sure there's a bit of a buffer building up. So when the inevitable does happen on your developments, that you're not looking in the cupboard that's bare.
Absolutely. Cash flow just so critical for any business. But I imagine when you're taking something that can literally take a couple of years to go to completion and you think you're going to make that nice big lump sum, and then suddenly it goes over by 6 months and you've got no income coming in. Yeah, real struggle.
That's why you've got no income coming in, and you've got finance costs still carrying on. And no doubt, if you're running over, then your construction costs are probably going to go up as well.
Of course, yeah, if your time period's going over as well. Yes.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people will be in this sort of situation with cash flow, not just developers, but generally in property, it's a thing. Is there any particular advice you'd give to individuals in property struggling with cash flow?
Controlling your costs and understanding your finances is really important. I feel like having a good handle on what's coming in, when it's coming in, making sure that you're invoicing your clients and making sure that you're on top of prioritizing them in terms of when they should be paying you. So, we've got automatic reminders on some of our invoices. And as an example, it just gives people that extra nudge to say, "Oh, I've not done that yet." And little tricks and tips like that. But the main thing is making sure you've got a good balance between short-term income and sort of long-term bigger projects.
Absolutely. And as you said, because the time slippage on some of these deals are one of the things that can really cause an issue on these. How are you finding transaction times as solicitors? I mean, you referred to it earlier that it seems to be challenging, but
It's not just challenging, Dave. It's an absolute nightmare at the minute. So we've got obviously majority of our deals, we've got at least two solicitors involved.
hmm,
We've found it since COVID, really, that things are just taking longer, and the conveyancing process in the UK is so backwards, and nothing's electronic. Today we've got a deal supposed to be going through that's supposed to be going through for a couple of weeks. One of the solicitors needs a piece of paper signing. They're not happy with it being signed in a certain way with a certain wording. So now someone needs to scan something back, print it off, scan it back. They happen to be traveling. And it's like, it's 2025 in a few days. Why is this so difficult? All we are doing is transferring a property. It's a lowish value transaction. The property is, 150, 160 grand. There's a lender to pay off as part of the process. So there's three solicitors involved in this particular deal, and they're not talking to each other, they're not calling each other. Everything's by email. Some stuff's not getting answered properly. It's painful, mate. It's painful.
no, I can feel your pain, and yeah, I've seen similar stuff on my stuff that I'm doing, which is very straightforward, just buy to lets, and yeah, I've got one going through for about 4 months or so now. You think, how difficult should it be? But
Yeah, it's bonkers. We've still got a couple that we're hoping to get over the line before Christmas, but I'll keep you posted on that one.
right, well, good luck with those anyway. Yeah, especially because everything
Thank
seems to
you.
be going down now.
I think we'll need it.
I think you will 2 weeks before Christmas Eve. Yes. Uh, so, talking about 2025, then, what are you looking forward to? What are your plans for 2025?
So one of the biggest shifts this year is the first thing I'm prioritizing next year is not business, it's personal stuff. So I've been through a bit of a journey over the last couple of years, and a lot of focus has been on work, work, work,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to flip that round. Definitely started in 2024, but it's going to continue in 25. Got holidays and adventures already lined up, both on my own and with my little boys. And the business is then going to fit around it. So it's which consultancy projects do I want to take on? Which clients am I going to retain? Instead of needing to go and find new clients, I've actually got too many clients at the minute, so I can pick the ones that I want to work with, which is a very nice position to be in. And the same goes for the property projects. I'm not going to take on any 20, 30 million pound developments. I just don't need the stress. I don't have the headspace. I'll focus on doing the nicer niche deals. I really enjoyed the supported housing this year. Probably do, if there was a two unit new build scheme for myself that I wanted to develop out, I'd love to do that. But it has to be the right deal, and it has to be, a decent opportunity for me to be able to take it in 2025. And I think that's really positive that my sentiment is, there are going to be a lot of opportunities next year. The government change has changed some things. Some people are happy about it, some people aren't. In fact, quite a lot aren't. But, I still see that as the opportunities are within our control. We've got to go and get them.
Mm. I love the way that you're actually putting yourself first, though. Arrange your holidays, carve out the time you want, first of all, which
It's took me a good few years of being in business to sort of finally get there.
absolutely, it's easier, a lot easier said than done. And so many people just get caught up working silly hours all the time, and it just takes over their life. Whereas, great to hear you in that position where you're like, no, put yourself first before the business. Yeah, I think that's absolutely cracking. So yeah, and property predictions for 2025. How do you see the market moving and changing?
So it's really interesting question. And I see steady growth, if I'm honest. From an investment sort of developer's point of view, I don't see house prices dropping. I see them going up because of the lack of supply. I see rent going up. And that's not just private sector. I see with the new government, obviously they're talking about social rates and different investments into certain sectors. So I see it as a really positive environment for people that are investing in development. It just depends on, your tax regime and all those sort of things in terms of whether it's going to be more profitable for you or not.
But that's the point with the tax aspect as well. Yes.
Having, I sound like a broken record sometimes, but having the right team around you and the right advisors on that point is very, very important and can make a massive difference to yourself financially in terms of personal and sort of business
Mm.
activity.
It's just absolutely critical getting that right team around you because you might be the world's greatest developer, but does it mean to say you know all about accounts? Do you know all about surveying? Do you all know about lending, etc., etc.? And yeah, crucial getting the right team to support you.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to, the finance landscape, the tax landscape is always changing, and you need people that are involved in that day to day. Obviously, people that are doing lots of business will get stuff from their different advisors and they can share that, but not every advisor is equal.
Mm.
So it's important to get the right people around you that can help you that are doing the things that you need to do.
Absolutely. No, I think that's totally critical. You can't be the expert in everything at all. So, and a lot of people don't like to realize that or don't want to realize that at all and try and do it all themselves.
Absolutely, but there's a saying, and it's about if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with a group.
Mm.
Probably not said that the right way around, but the theory is that if you surround yourself with people that are better than you in other things, then as a combination, as a group, you can do better things together.
Absolutely. Yeah. The power of the group together. Cool. So, and what are your predictions on the house building side? Because we were saying earlier, you seem to get the first signs of change coming through from governments.
A little bit. They've overseen some fairly major planning decisions and made some decisive steps. However, I don't fundamentally see the amount of house building massively changing. I was at an event yesterday and they were talking about certain house builders, even if the landscape changes, they'll only be able to actually increase their output by 4 to 5%. And the top 10 house builders, I can't remember the number of units they're responsible for, but actually it's not a massive number in terms of the overall housing need. There's millions and millions of people that need housing, and we're delivering, you know, we've got a target of 1.5 million over the next 5 years. It's nowhere near enough, but that's the target. It's still not enough. But I don't think they'll hit the 1.5 either. And there's a lot of people in the property sector that would agree with that. So
I
I think the targets are going to be difficult for people to hit the next couple of years without fundamental change that's going to take time to come through the system.
Yeah, because you're saying that figure, say 300,000 new properties every year, where I haven't looked at the figures recently, but I thought we were below half that.
So I think the last couple of years has been about 150, 200, depending on which year.
Hmm.
And it's the typical hockey curve. If they start making changes that are fairly drastic now,
Hmm.
they'd still probably do 150, 200 this year, 200, 250 next year. They might get to 400, 400, 400 in year three, four, and five. That would be great. But I think it's a bit more difficult than that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it takes a long time for this stuff to come through, as we were just talking about as well, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right, so promising first starts from the government, but we're still very take it with a pinch of salt if they're going to hit their targets.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
And what about the things outside of the government's control to a certain extent? So, sort of rental demands.
Well, again, there's just not enough housing, so I see demand from everywhere going up. You know, we're still getting um, people leaving home, leaving university, wanting to move. There's massive amount of demand in my area for HMOs for private let.
Mm.
The rents that they're commanding around here at the minute are crazy, to be honest. It's almost like London prices from a couple of years ago. So talking £700-800 a room
Oh,
per month.
wow.
Yeah,
Does
obviously
it,
that's got your bills included, and there is still a slight financial benefit of living in that rather than a one bed flat, I'd suggest. But it's quite a lot of people's disposable income that.
it is a big chunk, yeah. And we've seen rents shooting up in our area as well, just on single lets. Um, it's an interesting one because there's also a lot of talk about landlords getting out of the market at the moment with all the changes in legislation, but the impact that's going to have to the rents, you just
Everything going up.
exactly just general basic supply and demands. So these government changes that are driving landlords out of the market are actually negatively hitting renters by pushing the rents up because of it.
I think that is one of the things that they've completely missed with some of these changes. The person that's getting punished by most of this, yeah, the landlords are going to pay a bit more tax, or it's a bit more difficult for them in terms of regulation and standards. Most of the professional landlords I know are already doing that stuff anyway. They're already professional landlords. They're not doing it part-time badly. There's not as many rogue landlords about as people would like you to believe.
Mm.
There is obviously some, and they need dealing with properly. But the majority of people I know in property are trying to do it because they want a bit more flexibility, they want financial freedom, they want legacy for the parents, for the better halves, whatever it is. And they've gone into it and they're supplying homes, and it's a very important part of the sector. It's about 30% of the housing in the UK. If I'm quoting the numbers right from the graph that I saw yesterday. So, it's very important, and we do need a bit of support sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just seems that the government are picking on landlords, trying to. I just feel as though government are picking on landlords at the moment, and but the end effect is pushing rents up for tenants, which
Yeah. Which, just less money for people to spend in the rest of the economy. So people like retail and leisure is going to be impacted because they're sort of things that you can choose to do.
yeah, well, you really do need a roof over your head. So yeah, it's not classed as a luxury spending or anything at all. But some of the prices that are coming out, you'd think it would be a luxury.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So anything else on the horizon for 2025?
I think there's a couple of sort of new partnerships, joint ventures that I've been approached about that I'm currently in discussions with. All property related, all different angles in terms of development and investment. I think next year is going to be another year to try and push everything along a little bit. So a bit more supported, a bit more development, a few new partnerships. Not looking to 10x anything, but slow and steady growth. Stable, and we'll find some good opportunities next year, and I'm really excited about it.
Like it, yeah, I love the stability aspect of it, and also the short and longer term goals and developments as well. As you say, if everything you've got lined up is all going to take 3 years to get through, how are you going to afford to eat in the next 3 years? So combining it.
and you need it all starting, month in, month out. And, that's not easy to do on the bigger stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So having that mixed bag of stuff to go for next year makes total sense.
Yeah,
Cool.
100%.
Well, no, really good chatting to you again, Tony, and to hear what's been going on and what you're looking forward to do. So I think there's nothing more to say apart from have a jolly good Christmas, mate, and we'll see you again in the new year.
You too. Thanks a lot, Dave. Have a great Christmas.
All right. And you. Cheers, Tony.
All
Thanks.
right, cheers. Thank you.